It is first up a privilege to welcome to the stage an exceptional actor and performer who, as you'll see when you see the film, just captures the essence, the honesty, the creativity of Bruce. Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Jeremy Allen White. So, we've got a spare chair. We've got a spare chair there, and there really is only one person who could fill that. It's Bruce Springsteen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in heaven. Thank you both for being here. As I was saying to these guys, I've been lucky enough to see your wonderful film. It is such a beautiful thing. And we want to talk about that. And we want to talk about the journey you've been on with us together. Can you remember the first time you both met and where that was and what that was like?
Wembley Stadium. And I looked out from the stage, was at sound check. And Jeremy was there, and he was all dressed in white, so I could spot him really easily. But we'd never met, you know. And during sound check, I just kind of waved him to the stage, and we said hi. And he watched the show, and we had a good, you know, and hung out a little bit afterwards, and had a good time.
It was a beautiful thing. I got to see, the version of Bruce that I kind of. I understood from watching the concert footage and the performer at the sound check, and then I got to meet the Bruce that we're kind of seeing now, very gentle and kind, and it was funny. I don't know if I talked to you about this. Were you looking for me sometimes on the side of the stage? Would you look around?
Yeah, because there was a platform where people could watch the show from. So. Yeah. I was looking to see what you were doing.
Yeah, I thought he was trying to give me give me a little bit of the energy, the 90,000 souls coming at him. I thought he was trying to give me give me a taste. You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Where was the project at this point? Did you know you were on board? Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it had been a couple months, so I had been, I've been listening to him a lot and reading a lot about him and doing all that and talking to Scott Cooper, our director, a great deal. But it was like 3 or 4 months before we started filming. I think it was July, and we started in October. Yeah.
What were the important things for you that you really wanted to talk to him about in the first kind of meetings?
I think it was, talking about the focus of the film, the focus on this period of 1981, 1982. The focus of Nebraska, and I remember one of the first questions being about the county fair, when Bruce was going from Jersey to Los Angeles with his friend Matt D'Elia, and just what that moment was really about, and what he was feeling, and Bruce, after only knowing me for about 15 minutes, was very honest and told me about that feeling of, being outside of himself, feeling like an observer, trying to find that presence in his life, and I think a fear that was, escaping him at that moment in time.
Yeah, but Jeremy came so prepared that he really asked me very few questions, and I figured, this guy is going to be tremendously interested in me, right? but he came, he only had a few questions, and I was on set pretty regularly, which I always apologize to him for, because I said, it's got to be really weird playing the guy with the guy's stupid ass sitting there next to you, And he was so focused that really I kind of got more to know him when the film was done. Because he was so focused and central on the performance, and it was he's a wonderful guy. So it was a lovely experience for me.
What was it? I wanted to ask. Warren's book was obviously the starting point of this, and that is a beautiful gift to us as fans. But How were you persuaded to then that be allowed to be made into a film? Was it something that you toyed with, or were you?
No, Warren Zanes and Scott Cooper came down to my house, and they told me what they wanted to do, and I figured, I'm 76 years old. I don't really care what the fuck I do anymore. And I said, yeah, go ahead. You know, so,
Do what you want.
So, you know, it was sort of, as you get older, certainly at my age, you take more risks in your work and in life in general. And Scott was, he had a really good grasp of the type of film that if we were going to make a film that I'd be interested in, you know, which was sort of not your standard musical biopic, but was more of a character-driven drama with music, you know. So he really, I'd watched his films, so I knew the kind of pictures he made. He was a good blue-collar filmmaker, and we just had a real simpatico right away. So it you know, it didn't take a lot of convincing.
What was the starting point for you, Jeremy, in terms of, you know, you get the script, I imagine, you've signed on, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Where did you start?
I think, you know, there's a lot out there about Bruce Springsteen, and so I was trying to learn as much as I could, but also just listening, you know, as much as I could. I had been a big Springsteen fan prior, but I hadn't gotten through the whole discography, or at least listened to it so kind of like close together. And a lot of my energy was also going into the musical component of the film, you know. Very early on, Scott said he wanted me to sing and he wanted me to play guitar. I said, I don't do those things, are you sure? You want me to do it? And he said, I still think you're our man. I think you can do it. I had about 6 months, and so I started calling folks to help me, just very talented people to sort of help me with all that work. And that was, I mean, I think like a real sort of like breakthrough. I've been very lucky in the last couple things I've done. I've gotten to learn something, and so I've had a shared experience with kind of these last roles with the characters I've been playing, and while of course I wrote none of Nebraska, I had Bruce's words with me, and I'm performing his music, and I remember being in Nashville at RCA, sitting there and singing Bruce's songs for a weekend specifically, you know, from the record Nebraska, and I remember finding some confidence there and feeling sort of close to Bruce, sort of for the first time, really like it was possible there. I think prior to that, I was learning, you know, I was learning so much, and it was all very intimidating. And I remember finding a little bit of confidence there in the booth, singing.
Yeah, but right from the beginning, when Scott and I talked about who might play the part, you know, the first thing I mentioned was Jeremy, because I'd seen The Bear, and I watched how the camera read his internal life, which was very rich, you know, and I knew that was the kind of actor we were going to need, somebody who would understand the psychological underpinnings of the character, you know, and he seemed, I'm sure he's worked very hard on it, but he seemed to have he just had that. And besides having that, Jeremy, if you've seen him on film, it's a cliche, but he is a rock star. You know, it's just, and you can't fake that.
Yeah.
You've either got that or you don't have it. And he just had the swagger and the inner confidence to bring that out on film.
It's so amazing what you've been able to achieve with this performance, because it's not an imitation, but it's still Bruce. It's kind of like you're not mimicking him. Do you know what I mean? You're not trying to sound like him, but it's still the essence of this great man is still in your performance in some way. And I wanted to ask whether, you know, having these songs as almost an additional script in a way, kind of helped to get almost from the inside out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we had Warren's book, and it's such a wonderful book, and he got to spend so much time with Bruce and hear Bruce kind of explain so much, and he did his investigation as well. So there was so much sort of information there, but then, you know, I think there's something for an actor, you know, when you read a great script and you're performing a great script, you know, your job is very easy. You know, it's very easily understood and internalized, and when you're you know, reading Bruce's lyrics, it's the same thing. It's everything is so available, internalized. It would be difficult to sing his songs with dishonesty, I think, because they're so sort of true and detailed, and so, you know, I kind of had the information, but then it was really through the process of singing. And at first it was, you know, with Eric Vitro, my teacher.
Yeah.
And then it was in the car by myself. And then it was in the car with my daughters. And then it was in the, you know, recording studio. And
I thought you were going to say in the car with Bruce there for a second. That would have been
No,
great.
Bruce didn't seem, I mean, you listened to the songs before, some of them, right?
They sent
Before
me
we got to set?
a tape or two,
Yeah.
which really blew my mind because A, you were really singing. B, you were singing songs that are hard for me to sing, some of them, you know. But the main point was Jeremy's performance was not imitative in any way. He wasn't trying to sound like my ridiculous voice sounds when I'm speaking. You know, his performance was totally from the inside out, not from picking out outside elements and wearing them like clothes. It was just totally the psychology from the inside out, including the way he sang the songs. They were just completely credible as what he brought of him. It's like, even for writers, you can put yourself in. My job is I put myself in other people's shoes, right? People who I have nothing in common with very often, or very little in common with, or whose lives are completely different from mine. But to do it correctly, you have got to find the part of you that is the part of them, you know. And Jeremy in the film, just naturally, or through his art and his study, that's what he captures. You know, it's a non-imitative performance, but somehow it deeply relates to my story and myself, and that was really a lovely thing to see and watch, and with such great choices, and I have to thank you for it. You did just a beautiful job.
Thanks, Bruce.
As you guys will see when you see the movie, we have these kind of almost two different live types of performance that you do. You know, these kind of lovely quiet moments as these songs are being created and recorded, but then we do have those kind of couple of big live moments.
Yeah.
What was it like to sing Born to Run live?
Man, the Borns, Born to Run, and especially Born in the USA, I mean, singing that song, that took it all out of me. It's such a physically demanding song to sing. I'm just not a good enough singer to sing it, really, and so I feel like I was really forcing it and singing so much from kind of my throat and my chest in order to capture, I guess, the sound I wanted to, and it knocked me out, and I lost my voice. I couldn't speak for days, and that was rough, but it was so fun. I mean, the environment that was set, I think, in those sort of concert sequences, and then in the Stone Pony as well, you know, very little imagination was needed from my part, which usually you kind of need to summon some creativity to figure out the environment, but we're in the real place. We're with 300 background actors, mostly from New Jersey and around Asbury Park, who love Bruce so much. I'm on stage with the guys from Greta Van Fleet and Jay Buchanan, and so I was the only pretender kind of in this environment, in this group, and that made it very easy for me to get carried away, and that's sort of the goal. So I remember getting like lost for those 2.5 minutes on stage and really feeling it. And then I remember our first AD saying cut and everybody getting silent and landing, you know, back on Earth, yeah.
How did it feel for those 2 minutes though? Can you describe it?
Yeah, I felt, I think, a great sense of relief and sort of like a peace and presence in that moment. I mean, that's why I love acting. I think, you know, you can find some real focus, or at least I find real focus and presence. And in the rest of my life, sometimes it's difficult for me to find that thing. And then even when you're acting, it's still a rarity. Everything kind of has to be just right, I think, for you to really be kind of like grounded and in the moment as much as possible. But performing on that stage, I was able to find that thing. You know?
And there were certain things physically that he really captured on his Born to Run performance. And when I first saw it, I realized, yeah, I do that, you know? I look like that when I do that, you know? So it was quite fascinating.
I heard you say, Jeremy, that you'd kind of, you know, trying to keep the energy up in between takes and stuff of things. So you're taking your jump ropes with you.
I thought for some reason that my stamina would be more than Bruce's, and so I brought weighted rope with me to set whenever I had those kind of performance scenes, so that in between setups I could keep my heart rate up and keep my sweat going, and it turns out that was completely unnecessary, and after trying to perform Born to Run or Born in the USA, that sweat comes naturally, that heart rate gets lifted, and your adrenaline gets going. I did not need to use that rope. Yeah.
It's a wonderful man, does it every night for 3 hours.
Incredible. It's amazing. It really is. Yeah.
So brilliant. I want to also talk about one of the things that I think, another great thing about the film that is celebrated, almost a bit like a love story in a way, is your relationship with John Landau, and how important that relationship is, and how beautiful it is, and how supportive it is as well. And yourself and Jeremy Strong playing those characters as well. Those are wonderful scenes.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of finding that relationship between the two of you? And
I mean, yeah, I'd been a fan of Jeremy Strong's for such a long time. He's such a wonderful actor, and I had kind of like passed notes to him through colleagues and friends and stuff over the years, and hoped we'd find something to do together. And I feel very lucky that this was the thing, you know, and that I was playing Bruce and that Jeremy was playing John, and this thing happened really naturally. You know, we didn't get to spend a lot of time together beforehand because Jeremy was, I think, filming something, and I was in LA and doing my preparation. But something happened very quickly. I think Jeremy recognized sort of the pressure I was putting upon myself, and how sort of, you know, Bruce called it focused, but it was really anxiety, you know, that kind of like got, I think, yeah, like hardened in some way into focus perhaps at some point. But I think Jeremy saw me, he knows what that feels like, and he became such a protector to me during the time of filming, and a real caretaker. I mean, I had a lot of support on that film, you know, Scott obviously at the top of the list, but Jeremy would really check in with me so frequently and would really like set the scene and the tone, and was very present and available to me all the time. And I think that's, you know, that's a lot of what John, you know, has been and has done for Bruce. So I think something very special happened in a kind of a natural way there. There's just a lot of love, you know. I love Jeremy, and I think it worked. It worked in this case with this thing. You know?
there's a great scene where he's in the record company exec's office. That is,
Yeah,
That's a
I love
funny
that
that's a
scene.
great scene. Yeah. What was it like watching that relationship on screen and kind of being celebrated in that way?
It was interesting because, I mean, John has been behind the scenes for 50 years. You know, rarely seen, rarely observed. I mean, people understood we had a very close relationship, but I don't think they ever saw the dynamics of that relationship in action. And what the film does a lovely job of is it brings John's talents and personality and humanity forward, you know, and people get to see the way we are now and were together, you know. I was very young. Even when I made Nebraska, I was my children's age, you know. And I was up off the street. I knew nothing about business. When I signed my record contract, I'd never met a lawyer in my life. No one I'd known had ever been on an airplane. And, you know, we were local New Jersey kids, you know, working in bars and hanging out on the streets of Asbury Park. So when I met John, our relationship started out simply as a friendship. I played him records I liked. He played me records he liked. We talked about those records. We realized we had, the way we felt about music, we had a tremendous, we felt tremendously in common with it, you know. And when I went through the problems of losing my first manager, I asked John, I said, how about being my manager? He says, I don't know anything about managing. I said, well, you know, you can learn managing, but you can't learn character. You either have that or you won't. And so that was the beginning of our relationship. And the film shows John's character and his initial guardianship of my work and myself in a very deep way. So it's wonderful to watch Jeremy and Jeremy work that out on screen.
Did you, when you were on set, how was it for you kind of being behind the camera and watching these things, these moments of your life be played out and interpreted?
I've said this line before, but I always go, damn, when did I get that good looking? You know?
No.
And so you know, it took a moment to get used to, but I had a wonderful experience revisiting things that meant a great deal to me. There is a section of the film in which a young actor, Matthew Pellicano, plays my 8 or 9-year-old self. And we go back to the house that I grew up in. And they did a very, very good job of putting that house back together. So entering that home and spending a few minutes inside of it again, which is a home I visit regularly in my dreams to this day, you know. At least a couple of times a year I find myself in those rooms at night. So being able to physically walk into what felt like that living space, my grandmother's house, my grandfather's house with my parents, we all lived there together, was it was quite a miracle and quite wonderful.
I was lucky enough to chat to Stephen Graham, who just had I mean, he was levitating, to be honest, after he'd received a message from you, you know, in the portrayal of your dad in the film. You were kind of taken aback by his performance and his presence in the film, weren't you?
Oh, of course. You know, first of all, you know, he's an incredible actor, and he really embodied the physicality and the emotional complexity of my father, who was very troubled, an alcoholic, and he was bipolar, and he was quite mentally ill. And Stephen just naturally inhabited his skin, you know, and his soul. And particularly when he portrays my father as an older man, first of all, he is the spitting image of him. I mean, he just came out looking exactly like my dad. And towards the end of the film, you get a sense of my father's vulnerability and his sweetness. And he just did a wonderful job.
Jeremy, in terms of that, those kind of two sides to the film, in terms of the early life that are kind of moments that your character's revisiting.
Yeah, witnessing, yeah.
And being kind of informed by the emotional reaction and state of those to where we find, you as that character.
Yeah.
Did you dive in with that conversations with Scott, in terms of pulling through things from those performances into, or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was lucky enough to, I was around sometimes and witnessed, a lot of those scenes and got to see Stephen and Gabby Hoffman and Matthew, And yeah, for me, I mean, in my understanding of that sort of like, there's a sort of like unpredictability in your childhood. It feels strange talking about this with Bruce here, but my understanding, it's like, trust, that trust is hard to find. And I think that there was something especially kind of in the story of Faye and sort of becoming more and more of a public and known figure, and I think oftentimes while making the movie, I just thought about trust often, the importance of that trust, with John Landau and these kind of guardian angels, Matt, Delia, and then the sort of lack of trust or doubt or fear, from the outside. Yeah, those moments were important, and I couldn't believe, the first time I read, Bruce's book, Born to Run, the recall was really remarkable and all that stuff. I believe it when you say you visit these places because it was really amazing, especially in those first chapters. So yeah, of course, it was something I thought about, yeah.
Did you go down to the Stone Pony and watch the scenes being filmed down there as well?
I did. I was at the Stone Pony, which was a tremendous amount of fun. I still venture down there on occasion, though not late at night anymore.
On stage?
And occasionally I get up. Yes. Occasionally I still play down there. And so it was fun being in the actual place, which has changed not at all from when I went there, from in the past. I guess it's 45 years, the place has stayed exactly the same. And so watching Jeremy on stage and the crowd that was there really was, it was a lot of fun and it was a treat,
Did you learn anything about yourself from watching the film?
Well,
apart from how handsome you were and are.
It was, I think, reliving my experience with my father was a very powerful thing to view. And there are several scenes between Jeremy and my dad that were very, very poignant for me, and actually meant a great deal to me. I watched one of the early screenings with my sister, who was just a year younger than me, and so who experienced the household and remembered everything. And she held my hand throughout the film. And at the end, she says, "Isn't it wonderful that we have this?" Because at the end of the day, it honors our family. It honors the memory of the struggles that we went through. And, my parents have passed, and it's all ancient history now. But to have it on film in the way that it was portrayed meant a great deal to my sister and myself and my little sister also.
Jeremy, that must make you feel incredible to hear that was from the entire family, in terms of this, such a personal story to tell and how you've all, this collection and collaboration with everybody, what you've been able to achieve.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, I think we all felt that sense of responsibility. Bruce is someone we've all, I mean, everybody involved in the filmmaking, we've admired greatly and have come to understand through his music, his writings, and then, you know, spending time with him. I guess the importance of this story, and yeah, I mean, I think I felt a great sense of accomplishment, relief, certainly. I was feeling very proud, yeah, the first time I'd heard that, and I felt very proud for Scott, you know, who did such a beautiful job.
Done a great job.
Yeah.
Just amazing, you know, his ability to, I mean, the picture is, really has 4 themes going at once, you know. There's, well, it's the making of Nebraska. It's my relationship with my father, you know. It's a story about dealing with depression. And, you know, so it had all these various themes that Scott was going to have to put together at the end. And even if you sat through a lot of the shooting, I go, I don't have a clue as to how to do this. How do you put all these things together? And so to see the finished film and how he wove all of those different stories together into one story was really, it was quite a masterful job that he did. And all of the actors put so much heart and soul into it. It was, you know, like I say, it meant a great deal to me and my family.
Yeah. Not keeping the guitar up, though, I hear.
No, I mean, it's a beautiful guitar. It's a shame, you know, I do pick it up every once in a while. I got, I think I learned on just about the nicest guitar anybody's ever learned to play the guitar on, because Bruce sent me really beautiful guitar, a 1955 Gibson J200, which was the closest model to the guitar that, you know.
The actual Nebraska guitar, yeah.
Wow.
And so I got to learning on that one, and I learned with this wonderful guitarist, J.D. Simo, and he was in Nashville, and I was getting together with him on Zoom, you know, 4, 5, 6 times a week to prepare. And the first time we hopped on, you know, I said, hey, I'm so excited to learn how to play the guitar with you. And he said, we don't have time to learn how to play the guitar. We have time to learn these 5 Bruce songs. And so I learned the guitar in a very strange, you know, way.
You've got 5 party pieces now,
exactly,
though. It's great.
Exactly. But it is something, I think I put it down. I was so attached to it, you know, for the process of filming. And it was a funny thing, too. It's the guitar you see in the film, you know, because it looks so much like the guitar that Bruce used, obviously. And usually the props department likes to really hang on to those things, and they lock them up and make sure nothing bad can happen to them. But I needed to practice on it, so I took it home every night, and they were kind of sweating all the time when I wondered if I'd bring it back. But no, I set it down after we were done for a moment. Yeah, I'd like to pick it back up. It's too pretty to just sit there.
And he plays and sings the Nebraska songs really beautifully and you know, very credibly. You know, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, because in those kind of intimate scenes where you are creating and, you know, and outpouring and dealing with those different elements of each song, that's you. That's you playing, that's you singing.
Yeah, trying to find the songs, yeah. I'm okay at trying to find the songs because that's kind of like a halfway to performing the song. But yeah, that's me. That's me singing, and I think there's a bit of live performance in those moments. Yeah, in the house we did a fair amount of pre-recording for some of those bigger set pieces, and then in some of the more intimate scenes and in the process of making the songs. Yeah.
I wondered if you came away from the experience, you know, in terms of, you know, Bruce as an artist and feeling the need as a creative to express himself in the way that Nebraska was and what for, and whether as an artist, you know, you take something from that in terms of moving forward and the choices that you want to make and what those choices are based on?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of bravery that goes on Bruce's part, you know, in this film. But one of those things is the sort of artistic integrity, you know, that Bruce had, and I think the ability to pull away, you know, and to visit those things, you know, inside yourself, not to shy away from them, but to try to turn those things into something else. I mean, Nebraska was born out of this kind of period of real isolation, and ultimately, when I listen to Nebraska and all of Bruce's music, I hear a tremendous amount of understanding, and understanding makes way for community and for connection, and that's why when you go see Bruce perform, if you're lucky enough, all these strangers really feel like one big family and community in their adoration, you know, for Bruce. So I think, yes, of course, I think the bravery to sort of quiet the world, the pressures, the expectations, and to listen to yourself, you know, I think that's something that everybody should aspire to, regardless of the kind of like field of their work, you know.
I love when we come to your concerts and, you know, you might come to Manchester or Wembley or wherever, but it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it's such an international community. It's people from all over the world who have all come together, and you continue to do that, unite people. It's just one of your many brilliant gifts.
You know, that's, I mean, what's your goal at night, you know? You sort of come out on stage and you create in concert, which is, those words are very important, because the fact that you are in concert with your audience, you know, you can only be as good. I mean, the E Street Band will be good every night because that's what we do. But how great we're going to be is up to you, you know. And so we come out and look to play in concert with every specific audience. And you create an ideal world for 3 hours. Now it has to be, it's not a fantasy world, it's a credible world. And in it are all of the wonderful things and many of the very terrible parts of life, you know. But at the end of the day, it's a world where you learn to sustain yourself and to survive in. And hopefully there's also an element of transcendence that I always hope that my audience leaves the concert hall with, and hopefully it stays with them for as long as they need it, you know. And that's really my job. That's what I look to do on a nightly basis, besides entertain and make you want to dance and have fun, and all of those things are a very important part of the show. And, you know, occasionally we'll get political, and so I always said the show is a combination of a circus, dance party, political rally, go to church Sunday morning, spiritual revival. The show's supposed to be all those things on any given night. And when you are in concert with your audience, and when that is happening, it's a wonderful feeling for me, a hopeful feeling for me, and I want it to be a hopeful feeling for the audience that they can leave the room with and take with them.
And another wonderful thing for your audience and for us as fans is that Nebraska, we have an amazing version of Nebraska coming out, available, which, you know, the idea that these songs were being made in a certain way, and we didn't know that there were recordings that you found in the vault, and you're very kindly sharing those with the world, which is another brilliant gift.
Let me promote my new record right now.
We all want
the place.
So it's
the place.
Yeah. There's no better place.
Well, in the film, I go on about how terrible the band is playing the Nebraska songs. And I have Steve Van Zandt sitting next to me at the screening. I'm feeling a little bad about it. So I go back in the vault and I find all the E Street Band recordings of the song, which to my surprise end up being quite good, right? So we put them together and they'll be coming out momentarily along with a variety of other outtakes and things that'll it'll deepen your understanding of the experience of making that record, you know.
Thank you for going back in those vaults. Thank you for your time chatting tonight, and huge congratulations on the film. It's a beautiful gift to the world. It's a beautiful film, and you guys can see it on the 24th of October. Huge round of applause, please, for
Thank you.
Jeremy Allen.
Thank you, man.
Tried to put my money away, but I got dead set, no honest man to pay. So I drew what I had from the Central Trust, and I bought us 2 tickets on that Coast City bus.